could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, and times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today, learn the part and join the play. The world is here, let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted, and you know. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. Hopes and dreams, every boy. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Good morning and welcome back to the channel Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live, coming to you live from Armenia, Colombia. And got some new people that I know are in the channel, in the chat. So welcome. Keep it clean. Just to remind you, there is a 30-second delay, so when you post a comment, you can't post another one for 30 seconds. Okay, so we'll start off. How's the weather? Well, today we're going to have a high of 78, and we're going to have a low of 64. Sound familiar? Right now, it's about 70, 72 degrees. It was 70 about 30 minutes ago. And this is what it looks like. What it looks like out of the studio window. Blue skies. I realize it's kind of washed out, but as I keep telling you, that's a crappy camera. But if it wasn't doing this, it wouldn't be doing anything, so you might as well put it to use, right? Okay, and let's see. So far, I haven't forgotten. As of this morning, peso to the dollar, 41.01. I'm pretty proud that I haven't forgotten that yet. I even put it up on the screen this time. Okay. What else we got? Oh, I talked about the retirement videos, preparing for and getting here, and what do you do, and I've decided I got a lot of feedback, lots, and every method of communication. So I'm definitely doing it. I've been working on it. It's got 4 parts, but I think I'll be doing it in 3 videos, because one of the 4 parts won't be very long. I'm thinking there'll probably be somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes each video. And I said 2 weeks last week. I'm going to say 2 weeks again this week, because as I sit down and I've been working on the outline, I see a fair amount of editing that's going to have to take place. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, as always, some news, some Colombian news, some local news, and then we'll hit the topic about why Armenia. That's a question that asks me so much. Why Armenia? Why, why not Medellin? Medellin's the promised land. Um, and it's a fantastic city. And we'll get to that. We'll talk about it. And then, of course, we'll have live Q&A. You can ask questions as we go, but there's a good chance I'll be on a roll and I won't really be answering until, I get through the topic. Okay, so let's run down the chat here real quick. Juka, thank you. Just like clockwork. Jerry, thank you. I appreciate you supporting the channel. You and everyone else that contributes. A lot of people do it through my website. You're what keeps it going, so thank you very much. Let's see, Rob, good morning from Fort Lauderdale. Back to being early again. Rob was going to be visiting here November 9th. We're going out to dinner. Or was it the 10th? I think it was the 9th. I don't know. One of those days. Medellin. As I said, you only get one vote. John, good morning from Seattle. How you doing? Mike Jarvis, morning. I think Mike Jarvis was my first gringo visitor. We had, I was telling him about the steaks that I ordered, mail order, that I told you guys about. And they're really good. They're grain fed. They're according to Mike, he's a cow expert. They're butchered at the right time, and they're very tasty, and they're the right texture. They're not chewy. They're trimmed really well. And so I was talking about it, and I said, why don't you just come on over and have one? You tell me, because he actually is an expert. I mean, he raised cattle and did all that kind of stuff. So I came over last night and I cooked up a couple ribeyes, and we had a garden salad and smashed potatoes and a local favorite beer. It's a honey lager, which I really like. I had that. And then for dessert, I made up bananas Foster on top of a scoop of vanilla ice cream. And you know what? That bastard didn't even leave me a tip. Oh yeah, we don't tip that much in Colombia, right? Yeah, well that's all changed. Mark, how you doing, Mark? Mark has been the creator of the coffee meetings, which have been pretty successful. Except for the one time I went and I ended up being there alone. All the rest of them have had 6 or more people, and I'd say that's pretty successful. Plus, they've been pretty interesting. Robert, good morning from Montreal. Spanglish Angler. Hello, my friend. Finally in Colombia from Tampa, Florida. We'll be here the next couple of weeks visiting Armenia, Wednesday to Saturday. So many people are coming to Armenia. I don't know what the deal is. Juan Nunez. Good morning from Miami, Florida. Next week in Medellin. Awesome. Mike, your Bills pulled it off. Yeah, it was a good game. People are saying, well, they almost lost it. Well, that's true, but it's football, it's nothing's magic, but they were looking good again. They were kind of looking like themselves, and they'd been lost for a while. Coleman, hello from Baguio. How you doing? Nice cool breezes up there. Will PP. Okay. Good morning from Fort Lauderdale. Charles, hello from New York City. 55 degrees, 2 weeks back in Colombia. Awesome. Elections today here in Colombia. Don't be covering my news stories. Libby, good morning. Good morning in Fort Myers, Florida. When are you going back to Ecuador? Mike, excellent steak. Just a poor country boy. Yeah, it was a good steak. Made an error cooking. I'm so used to cooking for one. When I put it in the pan for 2, it kind of created a little more moisture than I expected, but I got it corrected. Okay, let's get on to some stories. First of all, the channel thing. I I'm compelled to bring this up because, as regular viewers know, I was demonetized over 2 years ago over nothing. Never had a strike against the channel. They just decided to quit giving me any money. And when they did that, they throttled back. And so my channel, it's impossible. It will never really grow. But it's okay. It doesn't really matter. But I hit the 4,000 subscription mark 2 years ago. And as of this morning, so I've gathered 104 subscribers over the course of about 750 days. Okay, let's get on with the stories. First story. Oh, let me clear that. All right. First story. Quindío, one of the most diverse regions, 3,310 species of flora and fauna are found here. The interesting thing is that 40% of all birds in Colombia exist in Quindío. 40% of all birds. I have to wonder who's been counting. And do they get to like 117, 118? Where was I? Anyway, 9% of all mammals are in Quindío. So Quindío is a pretty happening place if you're into, nature and all that good stuff. All right, next story. Dry law and prohibition in Armenia is decreed. And forget the gas thing. There's no alcohol or booze yesterday, today, and it's lifted tomorrow because there's elections going on. All the local elections. We got the mayor of Armenia is up. I guess they call him the president of Quindío. Quindío is like a state. And Armenia is the capital of it. But this is what was interesting. Mike was coming over, and I didn't have any beer. I buy beer like once every 2 months. I don't drink that much, but I didn't have any. So I had to order up a few things. The vanilla ice cream I didn't have. The bananas for Banana Foster I didn't. So I had to order up a few things. And I ordered some beer. A 6-pack of Aguila Light and a 4-pack of BBC Honey Lager. And I got frosted mugs in the freezer and yum. So I order it up and it comes back saying there's no beer available. Okay. Oh yeah, election. I forgot. Then I get this thing from Rappy, a message on my phone saying, if you want to order this from this other place, we'll pick it up for you at no additional delivery charge. Well, I don't get delivery charge anyway, but I said, yeah, okay, do it. Because, I really wanted to have a beer with my friends. So I wanted to use those ice mugs. Well, somehow they brought me the beer. But in any case, if you plan on going out drinking today, unless you already have it stuck away in your refrigerator, ain't going to happen. Okay, let's see. Medellin, Armenia, Bucaramanga. Well, I'll mention that. This one, it made me laugh as I read the story. Criminal gang dedicated to the theft of gold chains dismantled in Armenia. Now, that sounds like something, right? I mean, this gang that it has a specialty. They after watches, cell phone. No, we only want gold chains. And they were dismantled. So you think, I picture like 30, 40 people. Well, I thought they gotten rid of all the gangs. Well, then you read the story. It's 3 people. None of them are from Quindío. They're all from outside, which seems to be the theme lately. And they had 3 motorcycles. One of them was some little gutless pig, and they used that. One of the guys would go on that to kind of case. They'd go to an area, and he would kind of cruise up and down looking to see who'd have a gold chain. See, I think they've chosen a bad specialty because I never really see gold chains. I don't even get it, but that nonetheless, these geniuses, they got him on the weak motorcycle, and then on the two strong motorcycles, they come along after and they'll snatch the chain. One of them will snatch the chain, and he'll toss it to the guy with the fast motorcycle, and he'll do the getaway. Now, I'm not kidding you. This is the way it was described. And it was like, can you imagine? They sat down, they had been getting high, sitting around, planning out we're going to be a gang, and this thing's going to grow. And, where's the money? The money's in the gold. And they found a couple gold chains and a scale to weigh up the gold in their place. Oh, yeah, by the way, the police caught him right away. This is a small town, and things stand out, and people talk, and I don't even know if they got their first heist done, and they got caught, and they're sitting in jail. But the whole story just cracked me up, because the description of how specific and detailed their plan was, and how every step of it was such a joke. Anyway, maybe it's just me. Okay, now here, it's not news, but it's kind of cool. This tree right here is the largest tree in the world. It's like, damn, we just keep setting these records. And this is very near Monteria. But this particular type of tree, whatever the hell it is, what's it called? I had the name here, so Gaucho. This tree, if you're coming from Cali to Pareda or even Armenia, coming out of Cali, there's a 4-lane highway, beautiful highway, well maintained. And you're going by all these sugar plantations, and it's just beautiful. And you see these, it's like, somebody mentioned the other day to me, it's like the African savannah. And yeah, you almost expect to see giraffes walking around out there. You got these long flat areas, and then you've got these trees there. And it reminds you of trees that you see in, videos of Africa, and they're gorgeous. But largest tree in the world sits in Colombia, so pretty cool. And that's where it is. You can figure that out. It's way north of Medellin. It's south of Cartagena and very near Monteria. All right, here's another one that cracked me up. You may remember that we had the Condillo Beauty Queen pageant. I mean, who could forget, right? Coffee Queen gives her version after a strong altercation with one of the princesses of the contest. So the one on the left is from Calarca, and the one on the right is from Salento. And apparently, beauty pageant moms are no different in Colombia than they are in the US. Before the pageant, the Salento chick's mom was harassing the Calarca contestant, calling her names and just getting in her face. And then her mom, the Calarca's contestant's mom, got involved, sticking up for her daughter, and they went to fisticuffs. Well, the Salento's mom's boyfriend stepped in, and the Calarca's mom's daughter stepped in, and they were both breaking it up. So then they had the actual pageant, and Calarca won. Salento was one of the runner-up, second runner-up, I guess. It's what, third place? And the Salento mom went ballistic, and she's basically talking about the acts that she must have performed to get it and how she had bought the position and just going on and on and on, and then attacked the Calarca daughter and mom. And the police got involved, and you know, there's a big, so we get our share of gossip stories here too. It's pretty funny. And on the article, I was reading the chats of local people. It's in Spanish, but I was reading the chats, and everybody's on the side of the Calarca contestant, and they're basically saying, in their own terms, they're referring to the Salento mom and daughter as trailer park trash. Okay, like I say, maybe it's just me, but it kind of cracks me up. All right, and last news story before we get to our topic is Colombia's largest bread in the world was baked and broke the Guinness record. This popped up on my news feed this morning. So I had to scramble around and get it loaded into my little machine here. It was just before I got started. That took place in Bogota. So let's see. Oh, on that largest tree, it was 75 meters across, or 246 feet. I probably should have mentioned that. And what, did I miss anything else? No. But this bread was 335 meters long, or 1,100 feet long, and broke the Guinness World Record. It was in Bogota at the Bread Festival. The point of the festival is they're trying to promote people eating more bread, and bread consumption has fallen off because the prices have been skyrocketing, like many other things. So that's our news for the day. And now we're going to go to the topic. Now, before I get into the meat of this, I want to start with a disclaimer that in no way am I slamming Medellin. As a matter of fact, I'm on record of saying I think Medellin is one of the great cities of the world. It has so much going for it. It's an amazing city. However, it's a big city. And what I'm going to tell you is why I prefer Armenia. I don't like big cities, first off. So there's that. And I will also tell you, regular viewers know, but I will also tell you that my favorite places are Armenia, Manizales, and Bucaramanga. Bucaramanga, I could live there if I had to, but only if the other two weren't available for whatever reason. But I love the place. Manizales is my favorite city, even though I choose not to live there. I think it's the best city in Colombia, and I've been all over Colombia. There's a few places I haven't been. So yeah, Manizales is really something, but Armenia is the place for me. And primarily, and I say this over and over again because I think more people should be interested in Manizales. But 20 years ago, 21, 22 years ago, I don't know, 2001 and 2002, whatever the hell that was, I worked here, lived in Pereira. But I didn't like Pereira. It's hot, it's dirty. Back in those days, it was pretty dangerous. Unemployment in Colombia was well over 50%. The FARC were running rampant back in those days. They had control of much of Colombia. There was violence going off all the time. I mean, I was coming home one night in Pereira and got shot at. It was a crazy time. You wouldn't want to wear rings because if somebody grabbed your arm and chopped your finger off to get the ring. I'm not exaggerating. It was a crazy time. And I didn't like Pereira for all those reasons. But the biggest reason I didn't like it was the local population was always afraid. When you'd see them walking on the street, they would, like, females would clutch their bags and have their head down, wouldn't make eye contact. There was fear. And it's not fun to be around. It's certainly understandable, but it's, it doesn't endear you to a place that's already too hot, too dirty. And so on weekends, it started off with a friend who's one weekend brought me out to Condillo. And I fell in love with the place. And so after that, I don't know if I missed any weekends. I may not have missed a weekend. But race cars. I don't know if you can hear that. Where's the police when you need them? Man, that was loud. Sound like NASCAR. Okay. What was I saying? It was hard to concentrate. It was so loud. I don't know why you're typing in Russian. I don't understand it. Learning Russian. Oh, okay. Not a troller. All right. So anyway, on the weekends I would come out to Armenia, and I loved it here. It was I'm kind of a country boy, and it's very rustic and rural, especially then. And Armenia was it was recovering from that earthquake, but it was mostly recovering in the south. The north wasn't affected that much. And coming through Armenia, it was nice, and there was such a difference. It was so refreshing because people here, they were happy, they'd party all the time, really friendly people. And when I had to work here and had to live here, it felt stifling in Pareda, and I would come out here and it would be such a breath of fresh air in everywhere imaginable. And so I became endeared to the place. And back then, without knowing I was going to get sick and have to retire early and all that stuff, I didn't know any of that. I thought, what a great place it would be to retire here. So one day, seems like it's never going to happen, but one of these days I'll retire. And I thought it'd be the perfect place. Well, it was a long road to get here. Circuit, can't pronounce it. Circular route. But that's why I choose Armenia. But let me talk about Medellin and Armenia for a little bit, because everybody outside of the country thinks Medellin is the place to be. And while it's a fantastic city, for me, there's a lot of reasons I would never, ever want to live there. But out of curiosity, I typed into AI and said, what do you think would be the reasons to live in Armenia versus Manizales or vice versa? Okay, so the AI says choosing to live in Armenia Condillo instead of Medellin or vice versa depends on your personal preferences, lifestyle, and priorities. But just like AI, not to say anything. But it did come up with a few things. For Armenia Condillo, climate. Armenia is known for its pleasant climate, often referred to as a city of eternal spring. Don't they say that about every place in South America? It has consistently mild temperature throughout the year, making it an attractive option if you prefer more stable weather. And that's pretty true. Now, we do get affected by the La Nina and El Nino, but when those things aren't happening, it's pretty consistent. You've been seeing it since I've been doing the high and low temperatures. It's very consistent. Scenic beauty. Condillo region is famous for its breathtaking coffee plantations, lush green landscapes, proximity to the Andes Mountains. If you enjoy natural beauty and outdoor activities like hiking, Armenia may be a better choice. And that's all true. It doesn't even compare. The most beautiful parts of Colombia tend to be right here. Small town feel. Armenia is smaller and has a more relaxed small town atmosphere compared to the bustling urban environment of Medellin. It can be a peaceful place to live if you prefer a quieter lifestyle. Now, I have some people that read things like that and misinterpret it that there's no nightlife here, which is absolutely not true. But if your life is wrapped up in hitting up clubs and seeing how, like doing pub crawls, and you want different routes every weekend, and you don't want to hit the same club within a year, then Medellin might be the place for you. But I don't go out drinking at all anymore, but I have in my life. And if I were in the mode within reason, there's plenty of places to go to. And the more friends you have, the most fun you have is really with groups of friends, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in any particular club. So as you make friends, things like that become far less important. But the small town feel thing is absolutely true. The north part of Armenia has a tenth of the population, and it feels more like almost more like a village. You've got a few universities here in the north, and so you have a lot of students walking around, but you put them aside, and there's just not that many people. And if you're not fond of big cities, I see them as huge cities. I mean, Medellin with population over 3 million people, that's not fun for me. Okay, so I asked what the negatives would be for each, and this is not all AI. I'm going to talk, but I wanted to. I took a look at it and said, I think I'll talk about particular points. Most of it I just deleted. Negatives living in Armenia, economic opportunity. The smaller cities compared to Medellin, thus might limit the availability of job opportunities. It's absolutely true. If you're here and have a visa that allows you to work, it's not the place. If you're here and you're a digital warrior, doesn't make a damn bit of difference, right? Doesn't matter where you are. But if you're looking for a job, this is not the place to look. And I'd say that for most of Colombia. I'm not even sure Medellin is necessarily the place, but jobs are an issue. I will say locals that are bilingual can pretty much guarantee they're going to get a job, but there's not many people here that do speak any English. Second thing, limited public transport. The transportation system in Armenia is less developed compared to Medellin. This can make commuting less convenient. See, I have to take exception with that. Armenia is so small, it doesn't need public transport beyond what they have. We have these little buses that run everywhere. But I can go from one end of the city to the other, and it's gotten more expensive. So I'd say about 15,000 pesos. And most places you go to, it's going to run you 6,000-7,000 pesos, maybe a buck or two. In my daily life, when I take a taxi, I don't know if I ever get over $2, the equivalent of $2. So I don't know what public transport, well, we don't have the train or the subway or the megabus and those things, but we don't need them. Cultural and entertainment options. While Armenia offers a unique and authentic Colombian experience, I would like to talk about that more. It may have fewer cultural entertainment options compared to larger cities like Medellin. That's probably true. Again, how many do you need? We have discos, we have nightclubs, we have places you can go salsa dancing. We've got restaurants. We have all those things. I mean, it's a real place. But we don't have thousands to choose from. And so it might be important. The way I see it, if you're here, if you want to do something special, then I run to Medellin. That's got a restaurant scene second to none. Or I mean, Manizales. Or you can, do a weekend trip to Medellin without having to put up with the stuff that if you're like me at all, things you don't like about Medellin. And we're going to get to that now. Higher cost of living. Absolutely. Rents especially. They're it's so much more expensive. You can find nice 2-bedroom places with security and all of that for the equivalent of about $250 a month. Some of the higher end places tend to be around $400 a month. And if you get yourself a penthouse, 2-story marble trim, like one of our friends, William, he's gorgeous place, the size of a 2-story ranch house, and his rent's about $750 a month. That's about as high as it's going to get unless you go out to and rent a big complex, hacienda with pools and all kinds of stuff like that out in the country. But rents are way, way cheaper. I'd say typically between half and a quarter of what it costs in Medellin. Traffic and pollution. One of my pet peeves with Medellin. My eyes burn when I go there. It says larger population leads to more traffic, congestion, some areas higher pollution. My eyes tend to burn when I go there. Not always. It depends because of the way it's located. When there's pollution, sometimes it's kind of compressed to stay at ground level. Then other days it'll be crystal clear and it'll go away. But I think it's probably 2 or 3 days a week where you get enough pollution where if you're sensitive to it, it can bother you. I'm not a fan of it. The traffic's insane there. Now, I have to admit it's getting bad here in Armenia, but they are working on it. They're putting in some new routes to kind of go around some busy areas. They're working on figuring out how to ban motorcycles from certain areas of the city, but it's a bit of a problem here, but it's a terrible problem there. I was there one time and motorcycle, it was stuck and crowded, and the motorcycle couldn't even find a way to sneak by, as you know they like to do. So he just pulled off the road, went up on the sidewalk. People are jumping out of the way. He's not even slowing down for him. It's just a little crazy there. And again, if you're not a big city fan, like New York City used to be, fantastic city, but I never wanted to spend more than 2 or 3 days there, and I wanted to get the hell out. There's other people that could live there forever and love it. So we have to take that into account. Urban noise. The bustling urban environment in Medellin can be noisy and more hectic, which might not appeal to those seeking a quieter lifestyle. Noise can be an issue. I happen to choose an apartment here this time, right next to the road, facing a road. Of course, I'm 13 stories up, but during the day it's kind of noisy, but I don't really care during the day. And at night, when it matters, it quiets down. But this could bother a lot of people. I tend to move every year to some different area, different place, whatever. I'll be moving when this contract's up. But I like it here. It's nice here. But those things, you have to consider them. It's nothing like Medellin. Here, we don't get the fireworks going off all night, with few exceptions. We don't have people partying all the time. There's no place that I've lived here, and I've lived 4 different places in the last 5 years. Not once have I been kept up because there were parties that were too loud. It's people are more considerate. Where in Medellin, it's like, if you don't like it, too bad, suck it. But if you're in those parties, I mean, I'm sure it's fine for you. It's just not great for me. Inequality. Like many large cities, Medellin faces challenges related to income inequality, uneven development, which can affect certain areas and communities. There's truth to that, of course, but prior to COVID, it really wasn't much of an issue. If you lived in Poblado, people weren't venturing in to bother you, and if you lived in Laureles, pretty much the same. So where you were was as safe as the place you chose to be. And now they're hitting up those places because they see that's where the money is. Because people have become a little more desperate because COVID wiped out businesses, wiped out jobs, and people are still struggling with it. Here in Armenia, you still have people struggling with it, although maybe not as bad. Armenia does not have pica and placket. Yeah, they do. They have for as long as I can remember. That's pretty much Colombia wide. Turtle, have you visited? Oh, that's okay. Trees are really nice in Medellin. Yeah, one of the nice things here at Medellin, here in Armenia, there's so much greenery and trees within the city. And there's some areas of Medellin as well as Armenia that going for a walk is like walking through a park, or maybe you even are walking through a park. I'm not going to take that away. And there's areas like Sabanet that that are more like Armenia. But the cost of living itself, I mean, I'm not a rich guy. I don't have money to waste, and my lifestyle would be considerably less if I had to live in Medellin. So there's that too. It's not my first issue, but there is that. What's the last thing here on the list? Weather variability. Medellin is known for pleasant climate. Could be a bit more variable than the consistent climate in Armenia, which has led some to prefer Armenia for its weather. Okay, so that's what the AI has to say about it. I somewhat agree with a few of the things. I completely agree with a few others. The problem with Medellin is people will take exception with this, but it's almost not Colombia. The tourist influx over the last decade just keeps growing. It's been an exponential growth. On any given day, there's tens of thousands of foreigners in Poblado and Laureles. Here, I think we've got a maximum of a few hundred expats living here and around here in Quindío. We certainly don't have thousands. In Medellin, just in those couple barrios, you've got tens of thousands. They come in here without understanding the concept of what this economy is about. So they're living from an economy that's different. Let's say if they're coming from the United States. Well, the economy scale from Colombia to the United States is about 4 times different. So if something here costs $1,000, it'd be $4,000 in the United States. But your pay is a lot higher. Your rents are a lot higher, but they scale comparatively. So if people here make 4 times less, for example, but things cost 4 times less, they can have a similar lifestyle than what you have in the United States. Well, what the problem comes in when you come from a place like the United States and you're making a couple $1,000s a week, and people here may be making a couple $1,000s a month. You feel like you're rich, and you say, "Oh, that's so cheap. Oh, that rent, it's so cheap," and you get into this mode where everything is just so cheap, and you're kind of throwing money around. And if you're a native here, let's say in Medellin, and you're a storekeeper, and somebody wants to, give you 100,000 pesos for a 50,000 item until you keep the change. After a while, you get to thinking, maybe I'm just not charging enough. And it's affected Medellin a lot. It's affected Medellin in a lot of negative ways. And it's changed a lot of attitudes where you see people there, not entirely, but you see a much more consideration of doing something for money. And you also have a situation where you have a lot of people coming in for sex and drugs. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of that goes on. And they like Medellin because it's real easy. Now, what they don't understand is, I don't know about the drugs, but the sex part, that's, it's throughout Colombia if you want to. I mean, prostitution is legal and it's dirt cheap. So, but they go to Medellin and, they throw money around to try to impress a girl. And, they just feel overnight rich, and it corrupts everything. And when you have as many thousands of people coming for sex and drugs, then the local economy starts gearing itself towards sex and drugs, including the criminals. So the criminals will get involved and say, oh, maybe we can pick up some gringos and, blow some scopelam in his face and get him back in his hotel and steal all his stuff. And, it just kind of grows up out of all of this stuff, where you come to a place like Armenia or Manizales, these things don't exist. I don't know if there's ever been a scopolamine issue here. They don't really have gringos to try to fleece. And the ones that are here, like me, we're not rich enough to be throwing money. We're living here. We're not tourists. It's like, well, I get 2 weeks a year, and so it doesn't matter if I blow $20,000. I'm going to make it worth it. We don't have that blowing through here, where you get that in Medellin. And so the effect of me here in the local economy, I'm living on this economy on a meager pension. And so, I'm living pretty much like a upper middle class person would live here in Armenia. I'm a dime a dozen. There's hundreds and hundreds, and there's thousands of us here. So the corrupt aspect of all that type of tourism that comes to Medellin is isolated mostly in Medellin. And the thing is, if all you ever saw is Medellin, you really don't know Colombia. And it's a shame, because Colombia is a pretty awesome place. And like I said, Medellin is an amazing city and has a lot going for it. But in a lot of ways, it's more, you could travel in Europe to a lot of places cheaper than the time you spend in Medellin. And that's a damn shame. It's not why I choose, but it's something to consider. If you're actually going to be living here, and unless you're independently wealthy, those things should matter. Higher crime and costs that are very similar to places in the United States. Some people say, well, I can get a penthouse and it's only $4,000. And if I were in New York City, that would be $50,000. Yeah, but you're not in New York City. I mean, you can't compare those things. In the United States, if I'm in upstate New York and Rochester, New York, which is where I'm sort of from, prices there are going to be way less than they would be in New York City in the same state. It's a different scale of economy. And it's the same here in Colombia. And what you need to do when you travel to other countries is to adapt yourself to their economy. And what kills me is you have guys that come in and they'll throw money around, as I've described, leave big tips. Not big to them, it's only like $3-4, but they'll leave big tips, or tip where it's not even appropriate because they don't understand the culture. And they do all these things, and they, it spreads a certain amount of corruption. And then they'll go on Facebook and start screaming bloody murder because prices have gotten so high. Well, what did you think was going to happen? So all of that kind of stuff that goes on there, I'm just not a fan of it, and I don't want to live amongst it. And it makes the future you have to be unsure of the future, because you don't know how much continued effect that's going to have. Here, you pretty much know how things are going to go because you don't have outside influence. And so you know you're going to have a certain amount of inflation, things like that. But you pretty much, you can plan your life here. You go to a place like Medellin, you don't know what those rents that are ridiculous now could blow up and be double a year or two from now. What do you do then? And what if you tie yourself to a rent that, you know, it's like kind of hurting, and then the peso goes south for a little while? I mean, what are you going to do if you can't pay your rent? So you can find yourself in those situations, and to me, Medellin represents all of that. Too much traffic. It's weather. Yeah, the weather's nice, but the pollution really bothers me. The size of it really bothers me. The cost, all the tourist stuff that goes on. Those are the reasons where, yeah, go visit it for a weekend. Don't want to live there. And I'll throw another plug to Manizales. Manizales has pretty much everything that Medellin has once you know it, if you know where to go. But it doesn't have any of the hassles, doesn't have any of those problems, doesn't have the pollution. It barely even has any traffic issues. So rather than think that Manizales or Medellin is the end all of places in Colombia, I guess my bottom line is you might want to get out and check out some other places. You might want to check out, I'm not telling you to come to Armenia because, you know, we don't have to do that. But you might, you know, go to Bucaramanga, go to Manizales, and I think you'd be surprised. Even Ibagué, although that might be a little too isolated, but there are other options. And you don't have to, you have options in your life. You don't have to put up with those issues if they're issues to you. If they're not an issue to you, then, you know, you're going to love Medellin. Sabaneta has more authentic feel. I agree with that. It is more, it is closer to being Colombian, although it's gotten popular and the prices in the last couple of years have been kind of really going up. Rob, I totally agree with everything Warren said about Medellin. I plan on making it my base, but traveling throughout Colombia to explore as many towns, big and small, as possible. Rob's been in quite a few places in Colombia. Manizales has a lot of hills, correct? Yeah, but you don't have to walk those hills. I've explained this many times. 23 or 23 is the avenue on the top ridge. It's on 7 mountaintops actually, but on the top ridge of the main mountain, which is I think maybe 4 miles long, that 23 Avenue, from one end to the other, it's relatively flat. If you like walking, hiking around, going from one mall to the next, or stores or restaurants or whatever, it's all on 23. Well, everything's not on 23, but everything you could want would be on 23. And so you could go out and hike 8 miles a day just on 20, just on 23. There's hundreds of restaurants, and I mean really nice restaurants, like big, upscale, nice restaurants at reasonable prices. And then if there's a place that you want to go in Manizales, to meet up with somebody or something, take a taxi. You don't have to hike those hills. When I did a series of videos there, I was living in Manizales for a few months, and when I did some videos there, I kept pointing out, because I wanted to be clear to people, that it had some of the most wicked hills. Like San Francisco has got nothing on this place. And I showed some videos. There's some streets that you can't park a car on because unless you put a chalk behind the wheel, because parking brake and putting it in park or in gear won't stop it from going back down the hill because it's so steep. But the truth is, you can design your life there if you know where to go and not have to deal with any of that. So if you've never been, I'll recommend it, and don't get caught up in the idea of hiking up and down the hills. Just, get up on the top of 23 And if you like it, go out and walk for a couple hours, and you'll see that it's got all the walking you're going to want. And if you walk much more than that, than a hill here and there, to change your route, you'll be up for it anyway. If you can walk those kind of miles. They are like Medellin, because this region, what is it? Does this region have PR on films about Pablo? I don't know. That's a name we don't say here. That's ancient history. Colombians are not real fond of that history. I wish I could live in Armenia or Manizales. Unfortunately, fiance and her family live in Monteria and won't leave family, friends, employment there. Love Monteria except temperature. Yeah, it gets hot as hell there. Yeah, well, we all have particular reasons. Like I said, I don't think Armenia is the best city in Colombia. I think Manizales is, but I prefer to live in Armenia. Although I've been contemplating going and living in Manizales for a year. I move around, live there for a year, and then come back. But there's things about, I have emotional ties to Armenia that go back a ways, and I'm happy when I'm here. I feel like I'm at home when I'm here, and the people here. I mean, the slogan for the city is amable. You'll see it in the sidewalks. That didn't come from people here. That came from all the people that come to visit. Second most visited tourist area in all of Colombia. The first being the islands, San Andreas. So this is a really popular place when it comes to tourists. It's the #1 place in Colombia for retirees, mostly come out of Bogota. So they work their life, and then to retire, they come out here. And they say the same thing because it's safe. The cost of living is so much better. Your money goes so much farther, and the people are real nice. Armenia is known throughout Colombia as the friendly people, and it's why it's called amable. So, there's a lot to be said for it. But as a city itself, structurally and what it has, I don't know. I just don't think you can beat Manizales. Turtle's on here. He's living in Bucaramanga, and Bucaramanga has more things. But if it wasn't for the altitude, my guess is he might. And I don't want to speak for you. Maybe it's not true. Maybe you prefer Bucaramanga, but I'd be curious to know if it wasn't for the altitude and your pacemaker and all that kind of stuff, which would you prefer, Manizales or Bucaramanga? I'm very curious about that, because I think if you live for Manizales for a while or spend any amount of time there, it's hard to deny everything it's got going for it, and the lack of the problems that Medellin has. As great a city as it is, and like I started this by saying, I think it's one of the most impressive cities in the world. Medellin is an awesome place, but there's a difference between there's a lot of places in the world that are awesome that I wouldn't want to live. Turtle, Manizales. I had a hunch, because I don't know how somebody could not love everything. Manizales doesn't lack anything, and including if you're a party animal. That's a big college city also. There's the same number of universities there, but I think there's more students there, or at least they seem to make themselves more noticed. Here they're mostly in certain area of the city, and they're like all over the place. Okay, we got a few minutes left. I don't know if I gave that topic justice enough. I know my regular viewers have probably heard a lot of this stuff and already know about it. If that's the case, I didn't mean to bore you, but I just get this question so much. I finally said I'm going to address it again, because I got almost 800 videos, and I remember talking about this, and then I think about it. It's like, oh yeah, that was like 4 years ago. Yeah, but small airport, Manizales. small, almost unusable airport. On the other hand, you've got an international airport in Pereira that's 40 minutes away by bus. And you've got an international airport in Armenia. We have an international airport right here in Armenia. So that's pretty cool. But if you're in Manizales, you go to Pereira and you get on a plane there. You say, well, yeah, but it's 40 minutes. Okay, but how many cities in the United States, for example, have airports that are about 40 minutes away? It's not that big a deal. And if you're living here, what difference does it make if it's 30 minutes or 40 minutes? I mean, are you trying to catch a flight because your job depends on it? I mean, it's like chill, relax, you know. If you're worried about the time, just go an hour early and have a nice relaxing cup of coffee at the airport, you know, while you're waiting for your flight. It's just not a big deal. We get caught up in the mindset in the US. It's like we don't know how to not work. You know, I used to work through lunches and come in before and leave later, and then I'd always carry a job in the night just to keep busy. I was a workaholic, and it was an adjustment, but I'm really appreciating it now. I'm kind of sad that throughout my life I passed up so many vacations because I chose to work. You know, I lost so much vacation time and or money because I just continued to work. Turtle, also, there have been plans for new airport in Manizales for years. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know how practical it is. There's no good place for it. And the issue, last I was reading on this, was there are some places to put it, but it's so far away, then it's not much of an improvement over going to Pereira. Pereira's already there. The road to go there is it's a 4-lane highway, although it's kind of winding. If you could straighten that road out, it'd probably take you like 8 minutes to get there. But you're winding around the mountains. And the upside of Manizales too is the altitude. It's a little bit cooler. It's a few degrees cooler than here, but it's below the critical altitude where most people will not have any kind of altitude issues. It's rare. At that altitude, around 7,000, you almost have to have other problems for the altitude to affect you. Now, when you get up over 8,000 feet, that's a different thing. And that's where, over the course, it doesn't happen all at once. I don't mean the altitude sickness like when you first get to a place and you got to drink water. I'm talking about actual altitude sickness that can really hurt you. It takes 2-3 years very often for it to show its ugly head, and then you can't live at that altitude anymore. There's mountain climbers that get affected by it and have to give up mountain climbing, but that occurs for almost everybody over 8,000 feet and over. Well, Medellin is 1,000 feet below that, and I have an issue. I couldn't live in Cuenca anymore, but Manizales had no problem. I had no problem with it. When I first went there, I did. I couldn't breathe, but I was getting over pneumonia. So I had a real problem breathing. My lungs weren't working right. But once I was there for a while, I was fine. All right. Our time's up. Any questions? Thank you again for the contributions. I appreciate it. I appreciate you supporting the channel. Keeps me going. Keeps me motivated to do things like the retirement videos. I will be doing those. Please get rid of the heart icon on the chat. It blocks part of the newest comments. That's not me. That's I have no control over that. Yeah, imagine what it's like. You can't see on my end, but the reason I'll read these and I'll have to stop reading and it's because it blocks me too. It's in my way, and I can't find a way to get rid of it. If anybody knows of a way, it just showed up one day and never went away. I didn't click anything to turn it on, and I can't find a control for it. So I hear you. I agree with you, but I don't know what I can do about it. Stream is lagging. Well, we're signing off anyway, but I've got it blasting out of here. So it's just another, and it's actually even showing okay. Search YouTube for directions to remove. I can't post a link. So you found somewhere to remove it? I'll check it out. All right, so we're gonna call it for today. As always, I'd appreciate some feedback. Maybe shoot me an email or post a comment, and it helps me decide what I'm going to do next time. Because right now, most of my topics are driven by the letters, comments, emails that I get. When I say letters, I mean emails. All right. Well, happy election day. I'd say go Bills, but they already went. We'll see you next week.